I'm gonna fill you in on a little secret. Your Facebook ads aren't working because your creative sucks. Not because you need better bidding strategies, not because you need better targeting or bidding strategies, but because your creative fundamentally is not good enough. Now look, after spending 124 million on ads last year, we've seen what actually works. And I can tell you right now that most brands are completely wrong about what makes ads perform this year and in the years to come. What's going on, everyone? My name is Arsalan here from AKM, where we help scale, grow, and invest into the DTC businesses that we love. And today I'm going to be showing you why creative strategy is failing in 2025 and exactly what you should be focusing on to fix it. Now let's be real about what most brands are doing right now. They're chasing every trend that pops up on TikTok and Reels. They're copying whatever their competitors are doing, and they're obsessed with quick wins instead of building something sustainable. And they completely ignore brand building because it's too hard to measure. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you need to focus on brand creatives, but there is a big story to be talked about linking your brand story, personalized touch with what performs. And I get that most brands aren't doing this, but it's the reason why it's actually killing your performance. Now, before I show you what exactly works, let me share with you the AIDA framework. Now, we've done an extensive video talking about the AIDA framework in the past. So if you haven't seen that video, go ahead and click on the link somewhere around here to make sure you go see that. But it allows us to evaluate every single creative from a data-backed perspective. Within that, there's three aspects: the thumb stop, where we look for at least 30% of people to stop scrolling and watch our ad; the average watch time, which we aim for at least 7 to 8 seconds as a minimum; and the unique outbound click-through rate to be at least 2% and above of the viewers that click through to our landing pages. Now, if you go and analyze your metrics right now and you're not hitting these benchmarks, you are leaving money on the table. But here's the thing, these metrics are just the starting point. They're necessary, but they're not sufficient enough to define your creative strategy. Now let me show you what I mean. We had a brand spending around 50K a month, getting a 2.1x ROAS, hitting all the right creative metrics. And everybody, including the founders themselves, thought the ads were working great. But they couldn't scale beyond that because their ROAS would deteriorate, CPAs would climb, and no matter what they tried, they hit a wall. Why? Because they were missing the most important piece, a real storytelling approach linked with their marketing calendars throughout the different moments in the year that made that creative even better. Now, your creative needs three core elements that most brands completely miss. Number one, a truly unique value proposition, not just a high quality or we're premium or free shipping, and an authentic story that only you can tell, or very few people can say the same thing about your brand and product. And then number three, a genuine connection to the actual customers on the pain points you're trying to tackle and address. Now, I'm going to show you how we transformed this brand's approach. Before working with us, they were doing what everybody else was pretty much doing: basic product feature videos, generic lifestyle shots that could be any brand, and standard testimonials saying the same things that everybody is saying for the last 3 years. And don't get me wrong, this stuff used to work really well if we rewind 2, 3, 4 years ago. But as the saturation increases, as more and more people enter the ad market, you do have to start thinking a little bit outside of the box and not just doing UGC that looks like every other brand and every other competitor. So we completely decided to flip this approach on its head. The first thing we did was we showed a more behind the scenes manufacturing process about the brand, which resonated amazingly. We integrated the founder's actual story into our ads as a core USP and getting that personalized touch behind the brand and a face to the brand. And we showcased real customer journeys of how they felt with the product 0 days in, 30 days in, 90 days in, 6 months in, and even years down the line. And the results of this was, one, our CAC actually dropped 25%, our AOV increased 28%, and we were able to scale 2 times more in spend whilst maintaining the same efficiency and ROAS. Now, I'm going to dive into this a little bit more, but here's what works in 2025, and here is our framework. First, you need to think of a story-first approach. Now, ask yourself these questions if you're looking to define your creative strategy right now. What makes you genuinely unique? Why should people actually even care about your brand or your product or buying from you? What's your real origin story? Was it just for for the sake of making money as a business, or was there a deeper impacting goal in mind? And lastly, who is your community? This is a really big one that most brands overlook, but for the next 2-3 years, this is something that we are heavily focusing on for our own brands as well as our client brands. Now, second of all, you need the right mix in content. You can't just be going all performance anymore and thinking that's the way to go. You do need a bit of an omnipresence and even an omni-creative approach. We actually shifted over the last 6 months from being very heavy on direct response to talking more about the brand story, to talking about the founder story, to giving a large percent, 20 to 30% of our creatives being product education, 20% being social proof, testimonials, experiences, use cases, and then about 15 to 10%, or sometimes maybe 20% being direct response, which is a big flip from what we used to do. But as a result of this, our direct response content worked a lot better, and the other pieces of content helped us convert at a lower CPA. And lastly, this is a pretty obvious one, but you do need platform-specific content. Meta needs that story-driven content. TikTok needs that raw authenticity that the platform is used to seeing all the time. Google needs a bit more direct response because people are searching for you, and YouTube needs educational content. So let me show you how this plays out in real testing. Now, we ran 3 different approaches for the same product for the same brand. Now, the traditional approach used the standard product shots, basic benefits, USPs about the product, and we got about a 1.8x ROAS on these ads. But we couldn't scale beyond that because every time we did, our CPAs would also increase. Now, following on from this, we did the trend following approach, which is a lot more short term. We copied the viral styles at that moment and popular formats, and that got us around a 2.1 to 2.2 initially, but it burned out very quickly because trends die and things move on. And then lastly, we focused on education, we focused on founder story ads, behind the scene ads, and use as much authentic narrative and community focus. And that got a 2.8x ROAS and maintained scale. Not only that, but then we were able to add about 30% in terms of volume. There's also a few things that actually kill most brands' creative strategy. So it's important to list those too, because it's not just about what works, you also need to understand what doesn't work. Now, I've kind of already mentioned it, but first, chasing trends. You're thinking way too short term and not building a real brand. Your creative burns out quickly, and as a result, you continuously have to iterate and focus on finding new winners. Second, focusing on the wrong metrics. If you're obsessed with ROAS but ignore the back-end business brand metrics and long-term value or returning value, then you are already losing. And number 3, poor testing. There's no clear strategies, you're testing randomly, you're not documenting anything and learning from each batch that you put out, and thereby leaving a lot of money on the table, but also wasting a lot of money. So how do you start fixing this today? Now, number 1, and I recommend this for new brands especially if you've just started in the last one year to 2 years, document the actual story. What's your real brand values? What unique attributes do you have that very few brands or founders or products can say? What's your customer's journey? How do they go from A to finding your product to buying it to using it? And the last one, what community are you serving and how can you expand to build that? Now, the second point here is build a real system. Create a content calendar. This is why we talked about marketing calendars in the past. You have to have one. Develop a testing framework where every single week you're going back, checking the right metrics and iterating based on what works versus what doesn't. Number 3, on top of that, track the right performance metrics. Don't get focused by the wrong things such as CPCs or CPMs. Focus on the stuff that actually is incremental. And lastly on this list, build an iteration process. Make sure that you have a clear system on how you execute this. Which brings me on to my third. Execute consistently. Run weekly tests. This is something that we've been doing for the last 3 years now. Do monthly reviews on your creatives, on your ads, what's working, what are you spending the most on, and are you actually spending more on the winners versus things that aren't as profitable, but you're still spending on them because you haven't actually been tracking this. Number 3, plan quarterly. Make sure that you have a set strategy on what's going on every single quarter on your marketing calendar and how that translates to your creative strategy and the ads that you're putting out, as well as the trends that you might be trying to jump upon. And the last point here, which we have done a separate video on, is have a yearly annual strategy. If you haven't seen that video, go ahead and make sure you check out our 4 peaks and artificial peaks video. It'll be somewhere on the video. So look, here's the bottom line. In 2025, it's not about having the most ads or the trendiest creatives or trying to just churn out volume. Don't get me wrong, that still does work and it has its place. It's about having the right story that actually connects to your audience, building that community and being as authentic as possible, because honestly, that is what's working right now. It's what's been working for the last 6 months. And it's also what's been working for the brands that have been around for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and so forth. So if you're struggling with your creative strategy and want help, click on the link below. Our team does free audits all year round on e-commerce brands, and we help you to focus on what actually works and what you should be focusing on. So if you found this valuable, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, because we always really appreciate that. And if you're confused about anything, make sure you leave a comment down below and we'll get back to you in the comment section. My name is Arsalan from AKM, and I'll see you in the next one.